Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, a student of natural law, and an energy practitioner. And we are still going to go back to your mind and how to use it. However, it's recently come to my attention that there's something sort of more pressing that I want to discuss. Um, and how it came about, um, how it came to my attention was a revisitation to post-traumatic stress disorder, which I suffer from as a result of my being raised by rabid raccoons. So I experienced some of this recently and on a trip I took. And I did a deep dive into those books and I posted the books that I'm going to be talking about, plus all the symptoms in my Telegram channel, which there was a link, an invite link available to you guys if you want to go look at those books. So one of the books is The Body Keeps the Score by Vanderhoek. Um, and then I also included all of the books that are used in the adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, which can be used regardless of whether you were raised by Mary Poppins and Mr. Rogers. It doesn't matter because we were all traumatized in 2020 by the pandemic because humanity are herd animals and we had our basically our um, what would I call it? Our structure of living completely turned upside down. That was very traumatizing. Just everything that went down, just even if you were in the narrative at that time, just seeing the news, still watching the news, and it's very traumatizing. So you can use um, those uh, those books as a jumping off place to understand the trauma that we went through. And so because of that, we now are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. That's what I think. It appears to me to be that at this point. And the dark occult Luciferians are continuing to traumatize anyone who is still watching the mainstream news or even, I would say, even the alternative media, because we're all under mind control for this kind of behavior. And so the alternative media is addicted to clickbait as well. Everybody's still trying to sell each other shit using fiat currency because that's still our system that we're in. So even the people who claim to be in the freedom movement are still trying to one up each other to get that last fake green paper. And until we give up and surrender, we're just going to continue to pass the trauma around. So I'm pretty much 100% off social media at this point. I'm just trying to think. I still have Facebook for my business. And I occasionally make the mistake of making a comment, and then I usually go back into my activity and remove my comment because I just don't want to participate unless I have an opportunity to make a constructive comment that might be helpful in the situation. Um, but yeah, social media to me is just a way to let off steam. And a lot of people are still doing it. And that we need that steam to fuel our actions towards recovering from the trauma, the trauma. So like for me personally, like I had done a lot of work up till 2020 to recover from, my upbringing or whatever you want to call it. I like to call it my my down dragging. I had to raise myself, actually. But then I was re-traumatized. So anything that I hadn't actually dealt with got brought up just by the fact that I had to stand up to the managers at Natural Grocers and tell them I wasn't going to wear a face diaper to shop. And in where I live, it was so interesting because we have low oxygen here because we're high altitude. And it used to be that people used to drag their oxygen tanks all over the place. But suddenly in 2020, everybody had to wear face diapers. And I was one of the people that refused to do that. But I had such a meltdown, like I had such a reaction at the door that I knew that I was being triggered because I felt like my head was going to blow off. I didn't really feel like I could calmly say, that this is a violation of my HIPAA rights, my right to breathe. I was just so angry. So I had to go back and do a bunch of trauma work. And, obviously that we were in lockdown. So at that time I was in the autonomy school with Richard Grove, and there was a few people there who one was studying to be a therapist, and the other was creating her own trauma practice, counseling practice. And those people taught me about that book, The Body Keeps the Score. They told me about that book. I got that book and I read it. And then I learned about internal family systems therapy, which I think is an outgrowth of adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, because in the reparenting book, um, it talks about that. The reparenting book that's put out by adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. Um, but the laundry list that was created by Terry A. in 1978 is a good place to start. And I am just going to go through that right now, see if people can identify. And the thing is like, as long as we're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, we're really not going to be able to take any effective action. And I mean, obviously, I didn't realize this, until last week. Um, so I have to presume that I'm not the only one having these realizations, that when I have a realization like this, thousands of other people also have the same realization. I'm not, that special. Um, but I am just going to share this with everyone in case, what you want to take a look at it, and you might want to start learning some techniques to recover from it. I mean, in that program, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, they have meetings, they have their literature, they have a way to do shadow work with another member of the group, and they slowly recover it. There's groups on Facebook that you can go on and discuss. Probably Reddit, also Reddit, discuss this stuff. I'm sure there's Facebook groups on PTSD, and also on Reddit, different places you could find, as well as obviously in person, which would be better. Although my personal experience with those groups is that they're pretty dysfunctional, that there's a lot more unrecovered people in the actual in-person groups than there are in the in the on online groups, or it's just easier to take maybe. But if you have a strong stomach, and you want to check it out, it's just that it could be re-traumatizing. I would recommend, if you're going to go to any in-person groups, that do a grounding exercise first, and uh close down your chakras. And I'll post my video on how to do that in the description. Um, and just go there prepared, like don't go there with all of your tentacles open trying to seek a solution. Go there um, with a healthy skeptic's eye and go to a few different groups. I mean, I'm sure there's PTSD groups around that you have to pay for, but the thing that's great about adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families is it's free to attend those meetings. It's just that I can't say for sure if they're all going to be super functional or not. Um, the other thing I'm like, what I'm doing is a friend of mine and I are reading the Adult Children of Alcoholics book ourselves, and we're going to figure out how to do the work ourselves, most likely. I may end up going to some of those meetings. I'm not really sure, but I'm not sure. I'm doing the work right now. I started havening. That's one thing I should mention. Havening is where you stroke your upper arms with your opposite hands. When you're feeling stressed out, you can do this. And what it does is it creates a somatic response in your central nervous system. And then there's more to it. There's like you continue with this activity. And for me personally, like I said, because I was raised by rabid raccoons, this is another part of it. You can search on YouTube to find people who know how to do those types of exercises. Um, because I was raised by rabid raccoons, I don't have much recollection of my childhood except from outside. Like I can see myself from outside my body. Um, and so it's good for me to do this because it brings me back into my body. Okay. Um, and what that's about is called disassociation. And many people have been diagnosed with dissociative disorders as a result of trauma. Um, and what happens is that as a kid, and even as an adult, your spirit shoots out of the top of your crown chakra and hovers above your body when there's extreme trauma. And then you get into that habit of being like half in your body and half out of your body. And what happens is that like my memories are all of me. I can see myself in my memories, but I can't feel myself. So how to recover when that's how your memories are? It's very difficult to get back in your body back into the memory. But what I've noticed is when I'm doing this, like I have more of an awareness of what my normal feeling is, which is discomfort. I have a low level of discomfort constantly. At least right now while I'm focusing on this. I think that I did recover from that during doing all the work I've done. And I will again, make a plug for the emotion code because the emotion code is an easy way to recover from the trauma, and it's free to learn using the book. Um, yes, I am a practitioner. If anybody uh, doesn't want to learn how to do it, and that's what I've found is a lot of people don't want to take the time and effort to learn how to do it. They just want someone else to do it for them. But it is a long process for most people. I mean, even though Discover Healing wants to tell you that it only takes 4 sessions to remove a heart wall, my experience with the trauma levels that I have, it took a year for me to remove mine. And I was blocked for 4 months, in which I wasn't willing to do anymore at some point. But it is a really mostly pain-free way to do it because you don't have to talk. You don't even have to remember anything. The practitioner or you, when you do it yourself, you're speaking to your subconscious and you're removing the trapped emotions using a magnet or your hand. So anyway, there's a lot of information out there about that I'm not going to go into here, but I am going to go over the laundry list Um, just to give you an idea, like, for example, with regards to what happened in 2020 and what's currently happening, which I have to tell you guys, I do not participate. I do not watch any news, and I barely watch any social media, um, new news, like whatever it's called, alternative news. I don't watch that stuff, and I don't have to because I took the time to listen to all of Mark Passio's podcasts from um, number 1 through 196. And I started doing that in, I think it was 2015. Took me a couple years to get through them all. And also researching all the work that he provided. And what that did was it laid a foundation for me to understand what's actually going on so I don't have to be traumatized by the blow by blow of what the dark occult Luciferians are trying to do to us. I mean, I think they want us in the state of PTSD so that we can't take any effective action. And so I'm just going to go through this here quickly. Um, Number 1, we became isolated and afraid of people and authority figures. Uh, yeah, that happened in 2020, okay? And whether you want to identify that as being afraid of authority figures, I know for myself, I was horrified. I was in a constant state of horror at everybody being masked up and the quote unquote mandates, which is a strong suggestion, not a law, but how people just like folded under those authorities telling you that you were mandated to get jabbed with a poisonous substance that hadn't been tested. And I am also not interested in, animal testing as a solution for humanity. I think that that right there violates so many natural laws that it causes so much chaos and damage to everyone. Um, but I want to digress into that topic right now. I know that I'll speak for myself and you guys can identify if whether it's true for you. I became isolated. I mean, obviously, we were put in isolation during 2020 by the lockdowns. I didn't participate in that at all. My husband is an essential worker, so I got to continue living my life, but I still was affected by it. Things that I normally did in person, I continued doing in person while many of my um, friends just locked themselves in their houses and did everything on Zoom. I did not participate in that myself, but I think I was affected by it anyway. And I did, enroll in school autonomy, which was completely online. And later I discovered how deceitful one can be of the truth by being on Zoom. And now I use it as rarely as I can. Like right now I'm using Zoom right now to record these videos, but I don't do anything important on Zoom anymore. And I've gotten into a lot of situations with people who don't agree with me, who want the convenience of being able to sit in their office and have a meeting or whatever and not drive an hour to meet other people. I'm not willing to be a participant in that myself. But, even my rebellion against that could be viewed as trauma, you know? Um, okay, number 2, we became approval seekers and lost our identity in the process. So yeah, when I was a kid, I definitely was that. I had no identity of my own. I was just an approval seeker, or I could say I was also a disapproval seeker. Like I found that I couldn't get approval from people, so I did the opposite and um, sort of did it with a rebellious vengeance. Um, I could I could say like, I've seen people react to the pandemic this way. you know, where remember we had something called virtue signaling? That's what that is, where you shame other people for not doing what you're doing so that you can do what you're doing without thinking about it. Um, because if you thought about it, if you did the real research on it yourself, you might see how ridiculous it is, but you're in so much fear that and there's so much misinformation, you just feel overwhelmed by the trauma of the situation. Um, and you can't you can't even take the brain power to research to figure out what's actually going on. Number three, we were frightened by angry people and any personal criticism. Oh my goodness. Of course, that's totally going on right now and started out going on in 2020, right? I mean, it's been going on for different reasons for a long time, but that was the peak of it, right? Um, yeah, and then and those of you who continue to watch crap on social media and um the news and even the alternative news are constantly experiencing angry people. And personal criticism would be if you had an opposing opinion or something and tried to verbalize that to your family and friends. I mean, I definitely experienced that during 2020. Four, we either become, in this case, alcoholics because this is the laundry list for ACA, right? Marry them or both, or find another compulsive personality such as a workaholic to fulfill our sick abandonment needs. Um, how could I translate this into what's currently going on? I mean, I don't know what's going on out there. I mean, maybe a lot of people. Do you remember what happened when they tried to shut down the dispensaries and the liquor stores in during the lockdowns? There was almost riots. Yeah. Well, here where I live, dispensaries, and now we have shrooms too. We have everything here you could possibly need to deaden your nervous system. Um, so how could I translate this into the present? I mean, I think a lot of people probably started oh, I know. I mean, I've noticed this, like a lot of people I know are microdosing psilocybin instead of taking antidepressants, which is probably much better, but I also heard 87% of America is on psychiatric medication now. Wow, that's insane. That's really sad. Um, so I guess there's a lot of trauma going on. And there was before too. This was just like I said, a culmination point of that. And I think we're all suffering from PTSD, which is what I'm talking about. Like, so you could easily, as a result of what we went through in 2020, you could easily, need to take medication or start using recreational substances yourself. You could get involved with crazy people, or become a crazy person, meaning that you could become compulsive or something, obsessively compulsive, which is based on fear and anger, um, to fulfill your abandonment needs. Okay, so this is from kids that grew up in alcoholic families, but like I said, I think a lot of this was triggered in 2020, and maybe people who were sane at that time kind of went insane. Number five, we live life from the viewpoint of victims and are attracted by that weakness in our love and friendship relationships. And I think that like social media definitely fosters that, where it gets people to tell other people what to do and pity them and try to rescue them. Number six, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, and is easier for us to be concerned with others rather than ourselves. This enables us not to look too closely at our own faults, etc. Yeah, I mean, me doing this YouTube channel right now could be my overdeveloped sense of responsibility, which makes it easier for me to be concerned with you all rather than myself. I definitely experienced that. I will definitely admit to having experienced that because now that I'm, taking a closer look at my own post-traumatic stress right now that I'm still experiencing from my childhood. I didn't even know that that's what I was experiencing until last week, pretty much, when I went out of town and had some experiences where I recognized what was going on and decided to make a review of the work I'd done and maybe do a deeper dive into it. And that's when I started realizing, wait a minute, aren't we all doing this? A lot of people are doing this. Um, Number 7, we get guilt feelings when we stand up for ourselves instead of giving in to others. I mean, I would bet that is why so many people have not stood up, you know. I know I've done a lot of work, uh, emotional trauma work to get to where I could stand up for myself. And I had to do it because something that I'm involved with that matters as much to me as my own life um, needs our members to stand up for it. And so many people are not doing that. And I felt a responsibility to overcome my um, fear to be able to stand up. And so I did do a lot of work. And now I am able to do that with regards to that one thing. And again, I was able to stand up to the managers of natural grocers to let me into the store. But at a certain point, when they made it a store policy, like shoes and shirts and masks, by that point, I had a face shield and I used a face shield instead. Because I just didn't have the balls to stand up and have the police be called. I couldn't go through that. And I do have friends that do stand up to the cops. I'm just not one of those people. I just can't, I'm not going to go down that road. But I did it to the extent that I could actually do it myself. Um, Number 8, we became addicted to excitement, which can also be we became addicted to fear. You have to ask yourself if you've become addicted to excitement. I mean, to me, being on social media is part of that. Like I get that dopamine rush when I go on social media, which is why I have pulled away from social media and I only go on there occasionally now. Um, and it's still the same. People are like it's really pathetic. Like we have a few groups here where I live that used to meet in person and now they only meet on social media. Some of them do still meet. I don't want to say that they don't. I know that they do, but by and large, most of the people do not meet in person. We don't do that anymore. We just repost crap, the most horrifying crap on social media. And then of course there's the Facebook jabbing thing that's still going on uh ad infinitum. Um let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, number 9, we confuse love and pity and tend to love people we can pity and rescue. Um, yeah, well, I'm not sure how to apply that to what's happened here since 2020. I mean, I do remember like we all did try to talk to our friends and relatives about the jab and about the pandemic and about the convid scam and all that stuff. And a lot of us lost our families as a result of that because our families told us to piss off. Um, I don't know. I don't know. You'll have to figure these things out for yourself. Number 10, we have stuffed our feelings from our traumatic childhoods and have lost the ability to feel or express our feelings because it hurts so much. Yeah, see, I'm experiencing that right now. Like I'm experiencing like low level depression right now and a lot of lethargy, which is why I had a feeling that I was still suffering from trauma as a result of 2020 and childhood trauma. Um, and you know, I'm now I'm going to be working through it using these techniques that I'm learning. 11, we judge ourselves harshly and have a very low sense of self-esteem. So that means that we have an inner critic that tells us how terribly we're doing. And you could easily get that from watching the news too much or voraciously reading independent media. Um, I've gotten to the point with all this stuff where I say I'm doing the best I can with it and God's going to take care of the rest. Like I understand that I cannot change anybody's mind about anything. I cannot um, have enough scientific evidence, which I don't believe in science anyway anymore. Scientism, I'm not interested in scientism anymore. I'm really only interested in my experience at this point. Um, but uh, I just can't convince anybody of anything. So I just try to do the best I can to be helpful with the things I do know how to do. Try to have meaningful interactions with people. I try to be honest and direct with them. And I try to better myself so that I can do more of that on a daily basis. And the rest is up to God. Honestly, what happens to humanity and this world is up to God. And although I feel a lot of pain about what's happening to the earth itself and animals and the environment due to chemtrails and, lithium mining and the stupid idea that we should have electric cars. Oh my God. I mean, just the stuff, the pollution and the GMO foods and everything, all the crap that's going on. I'm powerless over all that. All I can do is what I can do. Carry that message of hope and uh, life force energy to the next person. Um, and then do what I can do to unblock myself so that I can be more helpful, more present, and utilize my gifts at a higher level. Um, but definitely, I'm not allowed to think negatively anymore. If I catch myself thinking negatively, which is something I do have to pay attention to on a regular basis, I have to pray to God and ask for those thoughts to be removed. Um, some people, can change their own thinking, and God bless you if you can do that. Good, do it. Um, I've also done that where I've like written down on an index card like a bunch of positive affirmations from someone like Francis Scoville Shin or Emmett Fox, and I've just memorized the thing and just said it over and over to myself. My favorite one being divine love is doing its perfect work in my life now and all is well. And just saying that over and over to myself into my heart chakra. Um, that really lifts me out of that low frequency. Um, 12. We are dependent personalities who are terrified of abandonment and will do anything to hold on to a relationship in order not to experience painful abandonment feelings, which we received from living with sick people who were never there emotionally for us. Yeah, I mean, I've done that. I mean, I've recovered from that quite a bit, but I have to look at the residuals. I still do have a dependent personality. I'm sure. I can kind of feel it. And how that would have been fostered during 2020 and the aftermath is, being dependent on social media, alternative media, um, seeming authorities to tell me how to think instead of me thinking for myself using critical thinking, which I have to develop. Um, so You have to ask yourself if you're doing that or not. And again, remember, this is for alcoholics, families of alcoholics. So this number 13 says alcoholism is a family disease. We became para-alcoholics and took on the characteristics of that disease, even though we did not pick up the drink. Okay, so what is that? How can you translate that? Like you could say negativity is a disease of post-COVID, post-convid behavior. And so we're acting that out by giving advice to people who didn't ask for advice and taking on the characteristics of the disease, meaning that we take the edge off by going on our phones at the stoplight and getting the dopamine hit by being on social media and texting. Um, and this is just on the fly. I'm coming up with this stuff here. Um, that we have like this agreed upon, we've agreed that we can take this phone thing, right? I can take this phone and I can use it anywhere, even at work. Oh my God, I cannot believe people get to read on their phone at work. Yeah, I mean, maybe you could read something at work that pertains to work while you're waiting for the next customer, but being on your phone, oh my God, I cannot believe that that is allowed now. It's just incredible, the lackadaisical attitude. But I think now that that lackadaisical attitude by everyone is post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of what we've all gone through in the last 5, 6 years. And prior, 9/11 was the first one. It actually wasn't the first one, but the first one that brought the world together um lately. I'm not going to go back any further than that. Um Number 14, this is the last one on the list. Para-alcoholics are reactors rather than actors. So what that means is that, it says that this fearism is a disease of the culture, and we've become fear mongers ourselves and taken on the characteristics of the disease of fear mongering, even though we did not, maybe we weren't perpetrating it ourselves or whatever. Like maybe even if we're not, you know, uh, politicians, if I watch politicians and talk about politicians and believe what politicians say, then I'm complicit in the lie. As above, so below, as within, so without. Um, and I become a reactor rather than an actor. Like I'm constantly reacting. I'm living in reaction to what I see on the internet, on TV, um, in the news or whatever. Then I am not an actor. And I'm not talking about like an actor on a stage. I'm talking about a person who takes action based on their relationship with their higher power. They're reacting to something in fear and anger rather than taking loving action from their heart. That's what makes me think that we all are in a state of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'm just going to offer those resources in my Telegram channel for y'all. And eventually I will plan on going back to studying that book. But as long as we're in fight, flight, or freeze, we're not going to be able to even utilize those books that well. I know that I'm having trouble with commitment to that stuff. I do it as best I can, but because my body is in freeze and my psyche is in fight and flight, I'm not really able to implement everything that I've been talking about with regards to natural law. And the thing about trauma in nature, you can look at how animals react to trauma. they like shake it off. And I believe that God sent us our pets, cats and dogs, because they make us laugh. And laughing is a great way to process trauma. You know, that's how animals when they're traumatized, they shake it off for hours and then they get it out of their body. And you'll if you read The Body Keeps the Score, you will find out that hunkering down and holding on like this stores trauma in your body. And what it does is that um, it creates imbalances that later cause disease. And then you go off and get some big pharma meds to hide those feelings. Well, I've left you with a lot to think about this time, and I'm gonna sign off now.